Oui, bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, on a notre leçon. Ceci va être notre dernière leçon de la journée, de la semaine, excusez-moi. Je vais vous introduire votre premier projet du cours de carrière. Ce projet ici, comme le premier projet du cours de civisme, va être du lundi prochain. Okay, so vous allez avoir aujourd'hui, demain, vendredi et la fin de semaine si vous avez besoin pour compléter votre projet. Et ensuite, la semaine prochaine va être notre dernière semaine ensemble. Okay, so already next week is our last week together. So today we'll go through the lesson. There is a quick little worksheet. There's a couple of games for you to play. And then you're going to have your first kind of big project. Next week, we'll have quite a few things. Next week is a busy week, but the worksheets are kind of the projects in a sense next week. So you're going to write a cover letter, you're going to write a resume, you're going to prepare for a interview, and then you're going to have a kind of a career research project. So I think I mentioned that earlier in the week. So those are going to be kind of the things, and those are all things that are going to be marked next week. Okay. Excusez-moi. So ici, la première chose, je vais vous montrer la feuille de travail dans un instant, mais je vais commencer avec ceci, le deuxième lien ici sur les compétences. So ceci est un PDF qui parle des compétences. So, les compétences sont des choses que vous pouvez faire qui sont importantes dans un environnement de travail. Okay, so these are competencies or skills that employers are looking for. Okay, and some of them are fairly specific, some of them are kind of general. So, même si vous n'avez jamais eu un emploi, vous avez quand même des compétences qui vont être utiles dans un environnement de travail. Right? So again, some of you are young, you may never have had a job before, but it doesn't mean that you don't have these competencies or these skills that you've kind of developed over your various experiences in school, in team sports, volunteering, kind of just general life like that. Okay, so il y a ici les compétences fondamentales. So these are kind of the basic competencies. So la communication verbale, right? So there's verbal communication. So you all are able to communicate verbally. So l'écoute active, la compréhension orale, l'expression orale. So, being able to actively listen to what other people are saying and kind of take that information in, understanding what people are saying, and being able to express yourself orally. So talking to other people. Il y a la compréhension de lecture, so being able to comprehend what you read. La rédaction, so that is being able to write. La numératie, la capacité de comprendre et utiliser les chiffres, so numeracy, so being able to use numbers to communicate. La littératie numérique, so again, being able to kind of understand what's going on with numbers, things like that. Okay, so these are skills that you have all developed over the course of your life. So when you are writing your resume and cover letters, these are things that even though you don't have work experience, these are skills that you possess that are useful in the work environment. Les compétences analytiques, so these are analytic skills. So again, these are skills that you've developed. So la pensée critique, being able to use logic and reasoning to kind of question things. Les stratégies d'apprentissage et d'enseignement, so being able to kind of learn from others and also being able to teach others, right? La prise de décision, les évaluations, so being able to make decision, you have a capacity to kind of analyze information and come to an informed decision. Evaluation, being able to kind of use a system to evaluate two different products or things or processes and kind of decide which one is better. Résolution de problèmes, recherche et enquête. So these are, problem solving, being able to research. Those are, again, all skills that you have developed in your life. Ici, compétences techniques, ceci est quelque chose que vous pouvez probablement ignorer. So these are technical competencies. So these are things that you will probably need to be trained on. So these are, being able to preventative maintenance. So those are things that you need to learn unless you are somebody who, has kind of who enjoys working with engines, with that, if you are kind of mechanically inclined, then maybe you do have some of these skills. Compétences en gestion de ressources. So again, this is, something that you probably will later in life. So this is kind of resource management. That is probably not something that you currently have in your skill set. And then the last one is really important. So compétences interpersonnelles. So these are your interpersonal skills. So that is, again, kind of communicating and dealing with people, because most of your job or work environments, you will not be working in an isolated environment. You'll be working with other people. So la coordination, so la capacité d'organiser des personnes ou des groupes. So being able to coordinate activities with people. Instruire, so again, that's similar to one we've seen before, but being able to kind of teach other people how to do something. La sensibilité interculturelle, so being able to kind of communicate and interact with people from different cultural backgrounds. La gestion de conversation, so being able to manage conversations. La négociation, la persuasion, so being able to negotiate, so being able to kind of get a couple of different parties to kind of agree on something, or to persuade, so being able to convince other people to kind of change their ideas, their beliefs, or things like that. La perception sociale, so again, kind of understanding social cues, nonverbal communication, those kinds of things. So again, when it comes time to writing your resume, if you don't have specific work experience, you still have these skills that employers are looking for, right? So don't think, oh my God, I've never worked before. How am I going to fill out a resume? By looking at this list, you will be able to pick out all of these different skills that you have. And what I would suggest is I would actually suggest you kind of going through these and kind of rating yourself out of a 5-point scale, where 5 is like, yeah, I got this in the bag. I am a very good persuader. I'm a good negotiator. Down to 1 where that's not something that you can do. And that way, when it comes time to writing your resume, you can look at this list and you can pick out your kind of 5 rated things, and those are the things that you can kind of push in your resume. OK. Et cette liste de compétences ici va aussi être importante pour votre feuille de travail ici. So on va voir la feuille de travail pour aujourd'hui. So ici, ça va être utile pour le numéro 1. So vous allez faire un peu de recherche sur les différents emplois suivants et les compétences requises. So répondez aux questions suivantes à l'aide de la recherche. So il y a, je crois, 4 scénarios ou 5 scénarios où vous êtes un gérant. So you are a manager or a boss pour un différent type de compagnie. Et vous devez rechercher ou dire quel type de compétences sont importantes pour cet emploi. Right? So, premièrement, par exemple, vous êtes gérant d'une compagnie d'information. Quelles compétences recherchez-vous? So you are manager for a computer programming company. So what kind of skills are you looking for? So la littératie, numératie, et la numératie. So those are kind of 2 skills that you would be looking for. So like computer programming, you need to understand math. You need to have kind of numerical literacy. Résoudre des problèmes. So problem solving is another one, right? So what are some skills that you would need in a computer programming company? Vous êtes gérant d'une compagnie de marketing. Quelles compétences recherchez-vous? So again, a marketing company. So what skills are required for marketing? So if you can give me like 4, maybe 5 different skills for each question, that would be great. Vous êtes gérant d'une compagnie de construction. So construction company. Une compagnie de finance. So a financial institution. Vous êtes gérant d'une compagnie d'intelligence secrète. So you are like a spy agency. What skills? And then actually, numéro 6, vous êtes directeur d'une école. Quelles compétences recherchez-vous? So you are principal of a school, you're hiring a teacher, so what skills are you looking for? OK, so numéro 2 fait affaire à la littératie financière. So again, financial literacy, and it's kind of looking at your own kind of personal history and your own experiences with money. So parlez-moi de ce que vous savez ou croyez au sujet de l'argent. So again, you don't need to, I don't want you to do any research. This is just kind of from your own experience. So what do you know and what do you believe about money? Quel est votre premier souvenir de l'argent comme enfant? Prenez 5 minutes pour construire. Yeah, you don't need, do not do don't do the affiche de succès financier. So I just want you to tell me, what is your first kind of memory of money? Quelles sont les top 5 valeurs les plus importantes à votre famille? So what are the kind of values, if you think of your own family, what are the kind of top 5 things that are most important? So is it being healthy? Is it spending time together? Is it travel? Is it whatever? Okay. Que faites-vous avec votre argent de poche ou de votre emploi? So what do you do with your allowance, or if you have a job, what do you do when you have money? Pensez à ce que vous avez acheté cette semaine ou votre famille. Est-ce que cela suit vos valeurs familiales? So again, kind of going back to question number 3, when you spend money, or your family spends money, does it kind of go in line with what your kind of family values are? So pour établir la littératie financière, il faut savoir le pourquoi. So again, you want to kind of understand why you're spending money. That will help you kind of understand how you spend money, and then how you could potentially save as well, which is important. Si cela vous intéresse d'aller à l'université avec une bourse de soccer, vos parents n'ont pas besoin de vous dire de s'entraîner. So vos valeurs guident vos décisions. So for example, if you wanted to go to university on a soccer scholarship or sports scholarship, your parents wouldn't have to tell you to go train, because you would have that intrinsic motivation. So understanding kind of why, and understanding that your values guide your decisions is important. So, ici, peut-être c'est une discussion à avoir avec vos parents, mais comment est-ce que vos parents décident sur ce qui est essentiel à acheter? Okay, so for 99.9% of the population, they don't have unlimited funds. So, people need to decide how they're going to buy things and not buy other things. So it's, again, how do your parents decide what is essential, what are things that they need to buy, and things like that. Est-ce qu'il existe d'autres types de dépenses? Comment est-ce que ces décisions sont prises? So there are kind of essential things like food, shelter, things like that. Those are things that are required. So that's money that you have to spend. But what are other types of expenses, and how do they decide what fits into those different kind of types of spending? So vous voulez un chiot, so you want a puppy. Combien devrez-vous économiser avant que vous ayez assez d'argent pour payer les dépenses associées avec un chien? So again, so imagine that you want to buy a puppy. So how much money do you kind of need to have or save so that you have enough money to kind of pay the initial expenses, or pay the expenses associated with owning a dog, right? So you have to think about all the different things that a puppy will require, the food, the shelter, the vet bills, how much it actually costs to get the dog, either from a breeder or from the Humane Society, right? So kind of list all of those different things that are required to own a dog. So ceci est un jeu, playspent.org, qui met en effet qu'est-ce qui est important pour survivre. So this game is, it's an American game, but it still does a good job of kind of putting you in a situation where you need to kind of decide on what to spend money on. It's a game that's meant to kind of stress you out with money. It's put out by a charitable organization that looks at kind of how to deal with people that are struggling with housing and then things like that to kind of bring to light some of the financial challenges with kind of living on kind of that edge of making it through the month with money or not. So notez bien des faits importants que vous avez appris. So what are some things that you kind of learned through playing this game? Ici, il y a un autre jeu, encore semblable à ce qu'on a fait avec la bande dessinée de Guardians of the Galaxy. Donnez-moi 3 choses que vous avez appris, 2 choses que vous avez aimées et une question que vous avez encore. Et ensuite, voici votre premier projet. Okay, so ignorez la date ici. So vous allez créer votre propre entreprise d'été. Okay, so ceci est l'application que vous pouvez trouver en ligne. So this is essentially the application that you would find online for this program. So l'entreprise d'été est un programme du gouvernement de l'Ontario qui aide les élèves et étudiants ontariens de 15 à 29 ans à obtenir des conseils et du mentorat, ainsi qu'une subvention pouvant aller jusqu'à 3 000 $ pour lancer une nouvelle entreprise d'été. Afin de participer au programme, tous les candidats doivent présenter un plan d'affaires. So basically, Summer Company is a program put out by the government of Ontario that helps students in Ontario between the ages of 15 and 29 to kind of obtain advice, mentorship, as well as a grant up to $3,000 to start your own summer company. Okay, in order to participate in the program, you have to present your kind of business plan, and this application here would be your business plan. Okay, so c'est à votre choix encore comment vous voulez organiser. Si vous voulez remplir ce document ici et me le soumettre, c'est à votre choix. Okay. So vous allez suivre les étapes. So étape 1, le plan. So votre nom et le nom de votre entreprise. Okay, so you're going to write your name. You're going to have to come up with a company name as well as a logo and a slogan. Okay. Again, when you're doing this, think of things that you kind of, again, enjoy doing and how could you make money enjoying what you do. So si vous aimez la photographie, peut-être vous commencez une compagnie de photographie. Si vous aimez être dehors et vous aimez les animaux, peut-être que vous commencez une compagnie où vous marchez les chiens pour des individus qui doivent être au travail. Okay, so pensez à quel va être soit votre produit ou votre service. Okay, ici, so vous allez décrire les produits que vous allez fabriquer ou les services que vous allez fournir. So vous allez répondre aux questions suivantes. Okay, so now you've got to decide, again, most companies, it's either you're providing a service, so you're doing something for someone, or you are creating something that people will buy from you. Okay, so maybe you love to bake and you want to have a cupcake company, right? So again, think about what it is. So fabriquez-vous ou achetez-vous vos produits? So will you buy or make your product? Si vous fabriquez vos produits, quels seront le processus et le coût de fabrication? So again, this is not going, some of these may not apply if you are providing a service. Obviously, this wouldn't apply, so you could leave it blank or just say non applicable. Qui seront vos fournisseurs? Où achèterez-vous vos produits? So where would you get your products? Again, here, depending if you are, even if you are providing a service, you might have some goods that you need to get. So if you're walking dogs, you need to buy a leash, you need to buy, dog treats, doggy bags, that kind of stuff, right? So again, where would you get whatever you need to purchase to provide your service or make your products? En quoi votre produit ou service est-il unique? En quoi votre entreprise se distingue-t-elle des autres entreprises du secteur? So again, what is going to make you kind of special and stand out and be a little bit different that's going to make people go, hey, I want this product or this service? Quelle particularité ou quel avantage attireront la clientèle vers votre entreprise? So again, what kind of advantages or what kind of unique things will attract people to you. So do you provide a service guarantee where if they're not happy with their service, they get a refund? Or, whatever it is, what is it, again, that is going to make people want to choose you? La clientèle et la revenu. So, dans cette section, décrivez votre clientèle et vos tarifs, estimez vos ventes journalières et calculez vos recettes de vente hebdomadaires. So in this section, you're going to think about who are your ideal clients, what are you going to charge, so what are going to be your fees or your costs, and then estimate or guess as to what are going to be your daily sales and your monthly income. So, quelles sont les caractéristiques de votre client idéal? So, what are, when you imagine whoever is going to use your service, who is it that you see? Maybe their age, maybe their gender, maybe their income levels, maybe where they live, things like that. Quel est le niveau de revenu de votre client idéal? So, what is their revenue? Again, what is their income level? So, is your service something that requires people to make a large salary to be able to afford you, or is it something that anybody could afford? Combien de clients potentiels y a-t-il dans la région que vous ciblez? So again, imagine how large of an area you are able to provide service to or provide products to, and then how many potential clients, so how many clients that fit your description do you think there are in that region? So again, this is a best guess. I don't expect you to go door to door and do research on this, but just take your best guess. Imaginez que la démographie de votre quartier changera. Comment allez-vous adapter votre entreprise? So imagine something changes in your area. People move out, more people move in. How are you going to adapt your business to meet those challenges and changes? Coût et tarif, quel sera le prix de vente, produit ou service? So how much are you going to charge? Comment avez-vous calculé ce prix? So how did you come about calculating that price? Combien d'unités de vos produits pensez-vous produire par semaine? So if you are, producing something, how many units are you able to make in a week? So if you're making cupcakes, if you're selling them by the dozen, how many dozen cupcakes can you make in a week reasonably so that you can expect to sell those? Si votre activité est un service, combien de contrats pouvez-vous conclure ou combien de mandats pouvez-vous terminer par semaine? So again, if this is instead of a product, if you're providing a service, how many contracts can you reasonably do in a week? So if you are babysitting, if you are mowing lawns, if you are walking dogs, right? How many of those things can you do in a week? Créer une table pour démontrer vos expéditeurs et vos revenus. So ceci, on va revenir à la fin. Il y a un exemple. Okay, so there is a table at the bottom of this document that will show you what I'm looking for. Plan de marketing, publicité et autres promotions. So comment feriez-vous la publicité de votre produit? So how are you going to market your product or your service? So how are you going to let people know about it? Indiquez le type de publicité que vous utiliserez. Par exemple, publi-postage direct, Internet, radio, télévision. So you're going to have mail flyers. Are you going to use the Internet, radio, television? How are you going to let people know? Combien cela coûtera-t-il? Quel volume d'activité pensez-vous ainsi générer? So how much is it going to cost, if anything? And then how much volume of activity, how many people do you think you'll be able to reach with that publicity? Décrivez vos plans pour attirer l'attention des médias sur votre entreprise. Quels médias ciblez-vous? So describe your plans to attract media attention to your company. What type of media are you targeting? So is there maybe a local newspaper that you will see if they want to interview you or write an article about you? Is there maybe a radio call-in show that you can do or anything like that? Quelle sorte de support marketing utiliserez-vous? So des brochures, cartes d'affaires, des affiches. So what kind of marketing supports or things are you going to use? So you're going to make brochures, business cards, posters, things like that. Auriez-vous un site web? Si oui, décrivez comment vous l'utilisez pour commercialiser vos produits ou services. So will you have a website? And if so, how are you going to use that to commercialize your product or services? Quelle autre forme de marketing utiliserez-vous? Pensez au salon professionnel, au telemarketing, à la sollicitation à froid. So what are the types of marketing do you think you might use? So would you use a marketing company, telemarketing, so phone calls, or just cold calls, kind of just knocking on people's doors and seeing if they're interested? Quels seront les coûts de cette publicité ou de cette promotion? So how much would you kind of spend on publicity? Oui, ici, votre budget de démarrage. Okay, so this will kind of tie into that other one where we talked about the table. La subvention du programme d'entreprise d'été pourra couvrir jusqu'à 1 500 $ des coûts de démarrage nécessaires. So you can assume that you will get up to $1,500 to kind of pay your starting costs. Okay. So vous allez décrire en détail le budget dont vous aurez besoin pour démarrer votre entreprise et le faire fonctionner pendant les 30 premiers jours. Okay, so the table that you're going to create is going to be for the first month. Okay, and I'll kind of explain that when we get to the budget part. So, il y a deux types de dépenses. So, il y a des dépenses ponctuelles que vous n'engagez qu'une seule fois au moment de la création de l'entreprise. Okay, so these are kind of one-time costs that you only pay once and then you don't have to pay again. So, for example, in the example below, it's a delivery company. So, the initial cost is the cost of the vehicle. So, they spend a certain amount on the vehicle. That's only something you're going to have to pay one time. If you're mowing lawns, you only have to buy a lawnmower once. And then, so that is kind of a startup cost. Des frais d'exploitation, qui sont des coûts permanents qui vous encombrent périodiquement, comme les frais d'inventaire, les fournitures de bureau, le téléphone, la publicité. So these are kind of ongoing costs, things that you will have to pay kind of periodically to keep your business running. So again, if we look at the example of the lawnmower, you pay once for the lawnmower, but you repeatedly have to buy gas to use the lawnmower. Or you have to buy those paper bags to put the yard waste into, right? So those are recurring costs. So you have to think about those two different types of cost. So ici, on a, again, the math is wrong. Sorry, I haven't been able to fix it. Ceci est le tableau que je veux. Okay, so vous allez faire deux tableaux. Un tableau pour le premier mois. Okay, so c'est une entreprise d'été. Si on peut faire une assumption que c'est le mois de juillet et le mois d'août. Okay, so vous allez faire un budget pour chaque mois. Okay, so les dépenses. So ici, on a la voiture. And again, we kind of identify what kind of cost it is. On met le prix. L'essence. So this is, they took the gas. So how much they expect to pay in gas. L'assurance de voiture. So how much they expect to pay in insurance. So that's their total cost. So this first two columns here are your expenditures, and this is your revenue. So le frais du gouvernement, so you start with $1,500 from the government. Le prix de livraison, so this person is expecting to make about 150 deliveries. They're expecting some tips, and so you have now, they're spending $3,200. They're making $4,000, so this should actually be their profit for the summer is $800. Okay. Ici, ils ont fait les 2 mois dans un tableau. J'aimerais que vous me donnez un tableau pour le mois de juillet et un tableau pour le mois d'août. Okay. L'autre chose, et je vais faire une note dans le LMS, est que la subvention est pour un total jusqu'à $3,000. Je veux que vous faites l'assumption que vous allez recevoir un autre $1,500 à la fin de votre entreprise d'été. Okay, so we'll assume that you get $1,500 when you start, so in the first month, and we'll anticipate that you get another $1,500 from the government towards the end of your summer. Okay, so you'll be able to add this $1,500 in each month. Okay. So yeah, so vous allez avoir votre deuxième mois ici. OK, so ceci est votre travail. OK, so encore, c'est à votre choix si vous voulez répondre ceci dans ce document ici. Vous commencez votre propre document, mais j'aimerais que vous mettez au moins ce travail ici sur votre entreprise d'été dans le Dropbox pour l'entreprise d'été. Okay, so again, you'll notice there's two kind of Dropbox. The first Dropbox is just for that first part of that worksheet, so up until the games. And then this Dropbox here is for your summer company work. So if you end up doing everything on one document, just put the document in both Dropboxes, please. Okay, because I will look in this Dropbox for your summer company project. Okay, so c'est tout pour aujourd'hui. Demain et vendredi vont être des journées de travail. Okay. Lundi, par la fin de la journée, votre tâche d'entreprise d'été est due. Notre prochaine rencontre ensemble va être lundi. Okay. Encore un dernier rappel que vendredi, le 25 juillet, est la dernière journée pour me remettre quelque chose. Okay, so kind of, I've been quite flexible with due dates so far. You've all been really good with getting your work done, so that's been really great. Thank you for that. But Friday, unless you've got kind of something major going on, I'd like all of the work done by the end of the day Friday. Okay. Si vous avez des questions, laissez-moi savoir. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Okay. So bonne fin de semaine à lundi.